What does a soldier think when he's sent to a place whose only detailed description is hell itself? It's where your body and soul can be burned when the ground explodes during even the simplest patrol. Or when a mere mistake from a superior is the same as hearing an order to dig your own grave. The Italian soldier Claudio Spinelli knew he had received such orders when they were traveling on the highway in Afghanistan. The convoy of 6 vehicles moved on tensely, knowing that the place was known as the road to hell, paved with improvised explosive devices. More than once, Spinelli saw the remains of vehicles still on the roadside and could swear he smelled the scent of death carried by the hot desert winds. The hairs on his neck stood on end. When it finally happened, the world was engulfed in fire, and the roar of death's arrival filled the air until it reached Spinelli's ears. The vehicle ahead exploded, engulfed in flames and smoke. In the middle of the black cloud, it sent legs flying and disappeared. Hell had come for the soldiers that day. That could never have been a sensible order. Everyone knew that the highway meant death for a military column. The insurgents turned it into a long, winding trap that stretched across the desert. In the 6-vehicle convoy, the first links was now nothing but flames. After the brief moment of surprise, they made radio contact. 3 of the 4 vehicle operators responded. One was missing, and Spinelli feared that those legs flying around were just pieces of the shelter codenamed Uzi. His heart beat with relief when he heard him walking, either smiling or covered in blood, letting them know he was okay. However, as soon as he signaled, gunfire completely took over the place. Spinelli saw the insurgents on the sand, protected among the rocks and by the blood that was hitting the Italians directly in the eyes. The soldiers, still in the active lynxes, woke up to the brownies. It was a band of dragons spitting fire, deep. Ammunition casings flew at the same speed as the enemies disappeared into the desert. What happened? After the combat ended, the vehicles cycled while waiting for evacuation. The American Rangers came to help. And only at night did the helicopter show up. That which had been only a day in hell. Spinelli had arrived in Afghanistan on a C-130 Hercules along with 28 other Italian Special Forces operators. He was proud to be part of that group. It had been his dream ever since he was in the paratrooper troops and saw them in action in Kosovo. Now, after so many years, he was a proud member of the Moschin Assault Regiment. And moreover, he also had medical training to assist the team. In the middle of the night, in 2007, he was thinking about the next mission when he headed to the briefing. The Joint Special Operations Command had called them for a delicate mission that required the swift violence typical of special forces. Not only the Italians had been called, Spinelli listened to the briefing attentively. 2 Italians who worked for the intelligence service had been kidnapped along with their Afghan driver. Men pretending to be police officers had stopped them and taken them away. As soon as they realized the importance of the captives, they sold both of them to an even more dangerous insurgent group. The Special Boat Service, the British SBS, was another group as feared as the SAS, but much less well known. Would take command of the mission as they had more suitable and advanced equipment. Spinelli didn't care. He was there to follow orders and save 2 lives that were in serious danger of dying. This wasn't an American movie. The possibility of someone dying was very high. Italians and Englishmen left in the morning, knowing there was a high chance the kidnappers would start moving the 3 hostages. Each group boarded their helicopters. Inside the SH-47, Spinelli had just prepared his FN Mini-Mini-Me. The weapon still lay cold on his lap as he watched his destination in the middle of the desert sands. The objective was in a nomadic village. In the distance, the morning sun began to light up the beautiful pale brown of the region. The place seemed simple and peaceful, but the sound of the propellers awakened a tide of fire that broke through the desert heat to pierce the steel of the aircraft as they landed. The operators hurried out, jumping and running to look for cover. It was not the time to think. Hesitating was the same as reaching out to death. The dust kicked up by the helicopter would have completely blinded the soldier if he wasn't wearing protective goggles. He rolled, looking for cover behind a rock, watching how his comrades positioned themselves. Each one knew their role, and his was ready. His heart pounded in his chest, signaling the satisfaction of being in the midst of combat. He raised the FN Mini-Mini-Me, unleashing the standard ammunition. In suppression fire, the shots made the enemies duck for a second. Enough time for the other operators' M4S to start searching for live targets to turn into lifeless bodies abandoned on the ground. Up ahead, the tents where the insurgents were hiding were pierced by the Italian rounds. The torrent of fire. Fire leaked through every dwelling in the village, starting to tear apart fabric and the few masonry parts. Dust flew as the bodies of the enemies fell to the ground. Spinelli heard the order to stop shooting. Everything went silent as the men tried to confirm if anyone was still active. Little by little they approached, finding bloodied bodies, those who had resisted. There weren't many bodies on the ground because almost all the enemies had fled with the hostages. Now it was time for the SBS to act. The C Squadron, made up of those British operators, was observing the cars driving down the road from the Lynx Mk7 helicopters. They circled the small convoy with the hostages. The rotors kicked up dust and announced that they were surrounded. But the defiant men responded with gunfire. The squad leader signaled to the sniper. The man prepared the .50 and started firing, hitting the car's engines. The vehicles came to a stop, filled with smoke. Some of the men tried to get out to find cover. Those men were shot while the SBS operators jumped out of the helicopters and set up the perimeter. The rifles started firing. One of the kidnappers didn't even manage to get out of the car, getting shot as he opened the door and fell, still holding his own weapon, unable to pull the trigger. The insurgents tried to set up a defense behind the cars, but they were surrounded, with fire coming from all directions. None of them surrendered. They chose to raise their rifles toward the British, shouting the name of Allah without fear. And they fell silent as their breath was stolen by the lead that pierced their lungs. The silence after the battle was filled with tension. The British cautiously approached the enemy vehicles, seeing the bodies scattered around. There were 3 wounded hostages there, who were immediately taken to the base. The Italian Special Forces had also already returned. Spinelli arrived there knowing that the SBS would carry out the mission. But the way they handed over their compatriots and the Afghans saddened him. The men were badly wounded. Lorenzo Dauria was in worse condition with severe injuries to his head and neck. Even though he was rushed for medical treatment, he died at the age of 33. Claudio Spinelli would feel that loss, but he knew that both he and Lorenzo were men, with the awareness that when they were sent to hell, they could have their bodies torn apart, with their souls consumed by the intense heat of the flames of battle.